Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. We have a very exciting webinar ahead of us today. In just a few minutes, we will be discussing how to find the right cloud for your business and why many customers are moving away from commodity cloud services. My name is Zachary Pearl, and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager here at Artisan Infrastructures. I will be your MC for this webinar. Our presenter today is Larry Hart. He's the CMO of Artisan Infrastructure, who has over 20 years of experience in the cloud computing, software as a service, and data center technology industries. Larry has worked at Dell, Cumulus, and Ixia in the past, and we're very excited to learn what he has to say about commodity cloud services. But first, let me give you a quick overview of who we are here at Artisan Infrastructure. Artisan Infrastructure is the leading channel-only cloud provider. This means that we only sell to you and never to your end customers. With the acquisition of Neverfail Technologies in 2014, we've added business continuity and guaranteed uptime to all of our cloud services to meet the growing BCDR needs in the industry. We've been recognized by VMware for having the best-in-breed business continuity technology, and we're one of the fastest-growing private companies in both the world and in Austin, Texas. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please enter them into the chat box, and we'll make sure to answer them at the end. Our Vice President of Technical Solutions, Christian Johnson, will be on the call to give you expert answers to your questions. And now, without further ado, Larry Hart.
Thank you for that great introduction, Zach, and good afternoon to all of our guests on today's webinar. My name is Larry Hart, and today I'm going to talk with you about commodity cloud vendors and how you can determine which cloud partner is the best fit for you. Commodities, as you know, come in many different forms. Many of these you can see here, such as oil, wheat, gold, and copper. And today, I would state the case that you can even potentially add cloud to that list, because in many cases, cloud providers have become simply that, a commoditized provider. They provide basic services in a rather undifferentiated manner and leave you with nothing more than the basic ingredients to make something else. Now, in some cases, that may actually work for certain organizations or certain companies, but we've actually found that most cases, while that is a necessary part of the solution, it's not always fully sufficient. Okay, so I know you came here to hear about cloud, and we're definitely going to talk about that. But to get in that topic, though, I thought it might make sense to lead off with the clothes analogy, since we're talking about which cloud environment fits you best. And clothing is one of the most difficult things to purchase online because, as you can see from the image here, sometimes you just can't find that right fit, and if you're like me, it's often difficult to get clothing that actually fits your particular body type. And so here are a few examples of the problems that many men have when wearing a size dress shirt. The first image is of a traditional muffin top appearance in which the wearer has a muffin look in which his shirt flows out over his waistline. This was actually a huge problem I've had most of my life. Second example is that of a flying squirrel, in which a tremendous amount of cloth is left in the arms, making the wearer look just like a flying squirrel. And the last image I'll share with you is the pirate sleeve appearance. And this is one where the wearer has purchased a shirt that seemingly fits him reasonably well everywhere but in the sleeve length, and that's what we'll call the pirate sleeve. Now, in every case, it's highly unlikely that the wearer actually wanted any of these so-called styles. Most likely, he wanted a perfect fit. And unfortunately, that's not always possible with mass-market clothing, or shall we call them commodity clothing. Instead, consumers are often forced to simply purchase the best fit available with no customization whatsoever. Now, I recently found a company called Hugh and Crye, and they make fitted shirts using a simple guide to help you choose the right fit for you. And they do this by adding additional sizing elements into the mix, such as body type and relative height. These are things that most men would know about themselves. They would know which body type they are. They're at the top. They know, relatively speaking, how tall they are. And even despite adding these criteria, it's still an amazingly simple process to use, since most men already know their neck size and their sleeve length. And these shirts made by Hugh and Crye are tailored to avoid all the unfortunate styles that make commodity clothing a terrible fit for many men. And simply put, this sizing chart makes it easy to choose a shirt. And in fact, it was so easy when I found these guys, I actually placed my first order with them this past week. Now today, I want to provide you some information, less so about clothing, a lot more so about cloud. that should make it easy to help you choose your right fit for a cloud environment. Now, cloud's on everyone's mind, and for very good reason. Cloud provides consumers with a flexible and agile compute environment, one that delivers on-demand self-service capabilities. And some of our partners have used our platform to host end-user environments as part of an application delivery chain for software vendors, or as part of a managed service portfolio, as part of a cloud solution of any means. And that means that all this talk is actually turning into revenue for our partners. So I want to share some of the growth drivers, some of these statistics. So when you look at this first example here on the left, just in the coming year, SMBs will begin a rapid, call it embrace of the cloud, and will grow that market segment by 72%. And something I'd want to point out here is that if you seize this opportunity when selling to this market, you can easily become the trusted advisor to these companies now and help grow and nurture them as they begin to scale. Now, by 2018, the cloud computing market is expected to surpass $200 billion, making it one of the largest industries in the world, not just within the technology segment, but when you consider all the industries globally. By 2019, almost half of all IT infrastructure sales will be for delivery of cloud services. And this has a profound impact on vendors who have traditionally sold enterprise computing. It means that in most ways, they're going to have to radically change their business model, begin to embrace cloud just like other organizations are. And then the last statistic I'll share here is by 2020, 78% of U.S. small businesses will have fully adopted cloud computing. The net for you is this: if you're not selling or even offering cloud to your SMB customers, now it's absolutely the time to get started. Along with all that growth and really the excitement that comes with it, cloud can be a confusing market space, which means there's a lot to be concerned with. There are, when I talk to IT professionals, I think about their careers and their professional growth and what they want the most out of their professions. And I find that fundamentally there comes down to a couple of things. One is being valued, perhaps even getting promoted, right? Everyone wants to know that their work efforts are valued. Whenever you think about cloud, you think about making a huge impact potentially in your organization, developing skills that advance your company and also your career. But on the other side of that equation is that dubious fear, maybe, that if something goes wrong, someone is getting fired, and that someone might just be me. So there's a massive set of challenges that we have to address with the cloud. Pricing is always an issue, and getting the right value out of the solution is important. Security, while mandatory for any cloud deployment, often varies wildly among cloud vendors, ranging from you're on your own or even a how can I get security. Questions like, what about support? How do you know you're going to get support when you need it? Is support exclusively through digital communications, or does someone answer the phone when you call? What business continuity solutions do cloud providers offer? How will I know my applications and data are properly and adequately protected? These are just some of the issues that create difficulty in considering cloud solutions. And then there's the vendor selection process. Vendor selection weighs heavy in any decision or any IT process. And there are many cloud vendors you can choose from, all of whom have different offerings and different levels of support. There are many recognizable brands in the market, as you can see right here, and many of these have massive marketing budgets to help them create and hold significant mind share. So when you think about cloud, you probably think of many of these companies. But the question I would pose is, do massive marketing budgets really translate to the best services that fit you? After all, you frankly deserve a cloud environment that is as unique as your own business. Yet most cloud providers simply don't provide that. They typically provide a one-size-fits-all environment. Now, oftentimes, the cloud business is part of another massive company that isn't always focused on the needs of specific users or even their unique needs. Now, some will say things like Amazon provides rapid spin up and spin down of VMs, but do they offer the guaranteed level of service and support that you need? Others may feel that Rackspace has good customer support, but many cloud consumers may find that Rackspace competes with them on some of their very own managed services. Others may point to Microsoft as a good solution for Microsoft environments. But what if you need another operating system in your environment? And what if you have a solution that competes with some aspect of Microsoft's Office 365? There are so many vendors with so many different services to choose from. Frankly, the decision can be a bit overwhelming, but we can help, and we feel there are basically 3 steps in choosing the right fit for your cloud environment. Step 1, determine what you need, but don't just settle for that. Get what you want as well. It is too expensive to be in a difficult relationship with a cloud partner. We hear from our customers regularly that there are about 7 things that they want from their cloud provider. First, they want fast workload deployment with unlimited scaling capabilities. Business moves too quickly today to wait for VMs to spin up. You need a partner who can deliver rapidly deployed solutions. And then what about when your workloads exceed their current capacity? You're going to want a solution that provides for immediate scaling of those existing workloads. You can't waste time for resources to be made available to your workloads. Then we hear about total cost of ownership, or TCO, which is the sum total of capital and operating expenditures. It's important to deliver the lowest total cost for cloud back to your organization. And this is one where it gets a bit tricky because it's often difficult to know how much you'll save on the operational side of the business. You'll want to find a cloud provider who can help you think through this part of the equation, not just someone who ships you a spreadsheet and asks you to fill it out. We hear that many cloud consumers are worried about their billing, and they're seeking cloud models that provide a more predictable billing environment. And this can have a profound impact on TCO, and yet sometimes you can't even calculate in advance what your bill will look like. Most people also tell us they're looking for an easy and familiar management tool. They want solutions that they already know how to use. They're seeking solutions like VMware's vCloud Director or Microsoft's Hyper-V management environments. They tell us they don't have time to learn a new management interface or a bunch of new terms and acronyms specific to any one cloud vendor solution. What about performance? We often hear concerns about noisy neighbor computing. Our partners tell us they want something that is reliable, provides an expected level of performance. About security. Doesn't security come standard with all commodity cloud vendors? Not exactly, not all the time. And it's a tricky matter, and it's usually best your cloud provider can have a meaningful discussion with you directly. I would suggest that you think seriously about companies that can connect you directly with someone like a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer, who can help you navigate, call it the minefield of issues with regulatory and compliance issues. What about when disaster happens? What about data protection? Well, some cloud providers leave you on your own to figure out how best to build a data protection solution for your cloud. Now, think carefully about this because disaster recovery comes in many forms, and the complexities of some cloud providers can make this a difficult solution to implement and oftentimes nearly impossible to test. Just, quote, protecting your data may not be enough because you may not have any assurance that data will be there when you need it the most, which is in some form of a disaster. And then finally, high availability. Partners tell us they cannot be down, period, ever. They want the most resilient environment they can get to support their workloads. Now, from what our partners tell us, these seem to be the most important 7 needs that are commonly addressed in helping make them successful. So now let's talk about step 2. Step 2 is pretty intuitive. You should talk with your prospective cloud provider. In the commodity world, the power of the internet is huge. The self-service model is becoming more valuable. And we recognize and we embrace the concept of self-service, but it can have a certain set of limitations at some length. While submitting an order with a credit card online, that can actually be a very easy way to get started with a cloud provider. Is it the best model? Or does it potentially lock people into a provider that may not be the right fit? It would seem to me that it often makes more sense to have a conversation about your needs with your prospective cloud providers. Wouldn't it be nice to actually talk with a business partner that takes the time to understand your needs and then helps you build the right cloud architecture, right size for you with all the right services right from the start. If you try to fill out the forms to set up a complete cloud environment with full disaster recovery solutions and full compliance for your needs, so that full compliance idea in there, you'll know it can be a bit overwhelming. How many learn more buttons do you have to click to complete the form? How many times are you not even sure if your answer was correct? Talking with cloud experts can really help you address your needs and even potentially uncover areas of interest or concern that would have never even come to light with an online form. Having someone there to help you design the perfect cloud environment at the beginning probably means they'll be there when things go wrong too. So let's go to step 3. To help you think through some of the topics that are of great interest to most cloud consumers, we developed this table for you. This highlights important areas that anyone moving to cloud or considering a cloud provider should think through. We've broken this down into 4 major areas: setup and provisioning, support, user experience, and features. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of detail on this chart, so it's probably time to tell you I'm not planning to run through all these in detail. So what I want you to know is at the conclusion of this webinar, we'll be sending you a document that has this information in it so you have time to adequately consider these cloud characteristics and really determine what solution is the best fit for you and your business. Now, before we send it out, I just want to say this. We've absolutely done our best to be fair and accurate in our analysis, but as you know, it's going to be up to you to determine if we've done that. So what I would suggest to you is we're always open to feedback. And if you get this document and you feel like it's not adequately conveying the right solutions and the right analysis, we'd love to hear from you, because we want to make sure that every single one of our partners is in the right cloud environment for their workload. So if we're wrong on this, we'd like to know that and update that information. So continuing with that step 3 concept, it's important that you eventually rank the vendors. You know that already. I would suggest to you, you also should seek the best partner. Now, while we can provide you, even more exhaustive spreadsheets than what you saw on the last slide for evaluating cloud providers, we feel most people will take their needs, wants, itemize them, score them, rank them, and do that on their own. But most of those rankings that we've seen usually focus on the features and the speeds and feeds, but they often lack the concept of partnership. If you stack the features and rank them all, you'll likely arrive at what you'll see here in the yellow and the orange boxes I would call vendors. So you can arrive at the best vendor through that. But you need, in our opinion, to give additional consideration to who could be the best partner to you. The question, though, is how do you do that? How do you add the extra element of the partner consideration? Well, here are a few questions that might help. First, do they work with you to build your cloud so you can focus more on running your business? Do they answer the phone when you call? Is there a phone number at all? Do they compete with you either directly or even indirectly? Do they custom build solutions that you need so you can remain competitive? Do they offer a variety of cloud deployment models you can choose from, or is it one size fits all? Do they basically lock you into their solutions rather than providing you flexibility to choose the right cloud for the right workload? We feel these are important considerations to help you find the right partner, that is, the one who is the best fit for you. Let's look at a few misconceptions about commodity cloud vendors. Misconception number 1, the well-known vendors are the safer, more secure choice. Now, organizations looking for cloud capabilities, safety and security are at the core of all considerations. Without safety and security, business risk really becomes a huge challenge. There are stories about massive outages at some of the largest cloud providers. These commodity cloud providers, particularly ones that offer the lowest price, they can't prioritize recovery for mission-critical users. They don't necessarily have integrated business continuity technologies, and they often don't provide live human 24 by 7 support, and that's why they limit their guarantee or read their contracts. For example, many cloud providers only guarantee uptime for their service and not in any way for your customers' workloads. So that means even if the cloud's up, your apps that you're running in that environment may be down. They also often don't guarantee quality of service, so predictable performance could also go out the window. But clouds can deliver carrier-grade availability and performance if they're chosen well, if they're built for the purpose of the workload, or they're built such that you serve the purpose of the workload, and they're also managed carefully. Commodity cloud providers, they really often have a hard time reaching that 99.9% availability. But I would suggest to you focused ones which emphasize the uptime, the continuity, customer satisfaction, even that hands-on customer support can deliver those levels of reliability that your customers deserve. As for security, it's incredibly variable among cloud providers. Some not view that as a core competency, and oftentimes patch security holes through third-party intellectual property or even external open source projects. More secure cloud offerings we've seen typically have things like a dedicated full-time CISO in their organization for the cloud. They adhere to industry standard compliance like HIPAA and PCI. They align to ISO IEC 27001. They also do annual SOC audits. I mean, these are just some of the things that are done in environments where security is a principal focus. So let's move to misconception number 2. Well-known vendors offer more features and functionality. It's not natural to think the commodity vendors offer more features and functionality. Why? Because they're big. You hear about them. They're talked about a lot. But if you look at some of the largest public clouds, their capabilities are often really delivered by outsiders. If you look at the largest cloud provider, for example, there are some fundamental functions that are provided through a partner ecosystem that's really made up of, dare I say, bolt-on technologies. Sure, their third-party add-ons are one approach, but to some extent they kind of camouflage what's really going on under the covers, and that is that big vendors really provide that one-size-fits-all, and they're not really tailored for individual needs with additional cost and a lot of complexity. A better approach we would suggest is a custom handcrafted package built for unique requirements. A more nuanced vendor, someone who is looking at the workloads in the right environment for your solution, can offer one organization a VMware ecosystem and give another a Microsoft environment and work with the appropriate toolkits, middleware, and management based on the needs of that particular solution. And I would suggest commodity cloud providers simply can't compete. Misconception number 3, commodity vendors offer better value. Commodity cloud vendors, they will talk about cost as a key metric, and they will hang their hat on their ability to shift market costs down over time. Some would call this the race to zero. And there's no question that they've done that. Now, what they don't talk about are the hidden costs of the least expensive offerings oftentimes. We've covered some of these already. Low reliability, no business continuity, issues with security, third-party ecosystems for basic functionality, and no customization. But many commodity cloud organizations, they have hidden fees. You'll know they have metered services. They have cost thresholds. There are a lot of limitations built into them. That leads us to misconception number 4. Well-known vendors provide the best support. A few commodity cloud vendors truly understand their needs of their customers. I know that's a big statement, but I'm gonna stand behind that because they tend to not have a relationship with their customers. These organizations, they often limit their interaction to web forums and forums. If you want to build a relationship, well, sometimes they say, here's your form, And so when you look at that and you think about it, begin to realize that many cloud providers treat support as an afterthought or an add-on. Some have been known to charge more than $15,000 a month for a comprehensive support plan. But how does that really serve you best? Don't you need a full-fledged, hands-on 24 by 7 by 365 support team? That's not added on or treated as some type of money-making exercise, but instead, it's actually a fundamental aspect of what that cloud provider is giving to you. So when you step back and look at it all, value, in my opinion, stems from relationships. The fact is that commodity cloud vendors are designed and optimized for size, not really about solving any particular customer's needs. They tend to be interested in adding more and more revenue and a little bit more interested in treating, a little less interested in treating you really the way you want to be treated. So they basically be an account manager who changes regularly, an online support forum, and if you want more, you're probably going to be charged for it. Instead, they simply give you that one-size-fits-all capability and hope it's good enough. But as we talk to more and more partners every day, we find that it rarely is for them. To reinforce the idea of some of those misconceptions, I want to take a look at some actual reviews from some of these commodity cloud vendors. Now, these are real reviews taken off at g2crowd.com. As we look at this slide, I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to call out any specific cloud providers. I've made this anonymous, so all the information there, is not specific to anyone. I want to protect the individual companies for which the review was written. I just want to use these review comments to show you some of the real-life challenges that others have faced deploying commodity clouds. And I suspect if you've ever deployed a cloud with a commodity cloud provider, you've experienced some of these issues yourself. First one here is half the time I can't predict what something is going to cost. It reminds me of cell phone plans, and trying to figure those out is just as hard, and that's a billing issue. Worse, just because something's in the cloud doesn't mean that it somehow is magically backed up or is redundant, has failover or CDN support, etc. That's a business continuity and disaster recovery problem. We've also been bitten by the noisy neighbor problem, etc. This is going to be a performance issue that people struggle with. Some of the aspects of the system seem overly convoluted, in part due to the immense number of acronyms introduced. That's going to be a complexity problem. As an ISP, we're looking for multi-tenancy in our system. That's a problem with multi-tenancy. Anyone who's providing services downstream will want a multi-tenant environment. Support's mostly paid, so you're on your own and in forums. That would be a support challenge. It's hard to estimate your costs. I've often received inappropriate bills which have overwhelmed me. Yet another billing problem. And then finally, we end this part of the session talking about a lock-in problem where someone feels that the vendor has locked them in. These are all very real issues that people have experienced while being a part of the cloud. So that leads us to the big question: what's the alternative solution, and what does a partnership look like? Well, here are a few ideas. Cloud partner builds you a solution that's uniquely tailored to your business. A cloud partner gives you access to real people solving real problems. Cloud partner is an extension of your team, which leads me to the last one, which is a cloud partner understands your business and works with you to alleviate pain, mitigate risk, and create long-standing solutions. The idea here in partnership is that both parties benefit from the mutual success of one another. That is the whole aspect and environment of partnership, and one that we here at Artisan subtend to dearly. At Artisan, I know this is a busy slide, so bear with me. I want you to understand that we've been faced with many of the same challenges that you probably have. We develop and manage clouds, and then we sell that exclusively to a value-added channel. In the new cloud paradigm, there is a new set of issues that emerge, and both enterprises and service providers are struggling to make the transition because the tools they've used historically are inadequate for today's challenges. If you think about some recent examples we've had, we had a large cable provider, and they were struggling to deploy more modern applications because they've been delivering bandwidth, dial tone, and also email services. And now the competitive environment's forcing them into significantly more varied applications. And to deliver these, they're struggling with many of the problems that you see here, they're listed more as a solution, but when you think about orchestration, billing, catalog management, reporting, monitoring, etc., they just weren't able to find an environment that comprehensively solved those problems. They were looking for a solution really more akin to the Apple App Store that allows a single click for simple download and install. Now, enterprises are challenged with the same issues. They're being pressured to push more applications into service at a faster pace than ever. And they need services that are easily consumed and delivered in that web-facing catalog. Again, they essentially want an app store for the cloud. Now, what we put together is a management platform called Memcraft. It provides hybrid cloud management for clouds anywhere and everywhere. It can seamlessly integrate your clouds together through its advanced single pane of glass capabilities and its advanced orchestration capabilities. And it takes care of all these issues here, from orchestration to billing all the way through to compliance, because these services in the cloud they're no longer a nice to have. They are, as you know, requirements. And the really nice thing about this is if you look at the various forms of cloud we have in here, you'll see that we span with that management capability on-premise cloud to managed clouds, all the way back into public, private, even bare metal clouds that will be managed in an artisan environment. And these really come together to deliver a powerful marketplace. And what's really nice about this is that these powerful built-in features, we've also built in APIs that allow other services and applications to connect. We're working to provide some common application support, such as those you see on the slide, like Autotask and Jira and Moodle and Salesforce. But you also have the option to connect other applications, including your own custom-built applications, to this advanced management platform. The point I want to make in closing on this slide is simply this. We know the problems you're faced with because we've had them too, and we've had them at massive scale. And so that's why we created this management environment, this cloud solution, to not only solve our problems, but to help make your cloud simple to build, to deploy, to manage, to protect, and even to scale. Now, when you think about those clouds that we're delivering, there's a few flavors that we offer. And this is our Cornerstone line of products, and through it we offer a comprehensive infrastructure as a service suite, and we really address everything from the most simple cloud server requirement to highly complex hybrid cloud deployments. If you start at the far left here, Secure Cloud, that provides partners with a VMware-based, securely segmented, multi-tenant cloud that offers an optimal blend of price, performance, and even flexibility. Private Cloud provides partners with dedicated VMware vCloud built on enterprise-grade HPE Blade servers for secure segmentation and also maximum control over the platform. Interesting, on this particular platform, we offer that both in a host-based environment as well as a VM-based pricing model. On the bare metal side, we offer a flexible physical hardware-based platform for consumers to host their own hypervisor layer. And then on the right here, you'll see, and this is coming in late 2016, we'll offer a cloud in a box, which is an on-premise rapid deployment type of cloud. Basically, you get a data center in a box that you basically connect to the power and run a network cord to it, and you have a cloud. These platforms, collectively, they deliver flexible storage, security, as we mentioned before, and also bandwidth options to give you maximum flexibility. These building blocks really enable you to build custom solutions for your end users easily. And always remember, our solution architects are going to be available to assist anytime you need them. And we've found that a little bit of help with our partners can go a long ways helping make them successful. So equally important to our partners in terms of availability and resiliency of services It's the whole idea of keeping that in a maximum uptime environment. I won't go through the slide in detail, but the key thing I'd like to illustrate here is that our cloud services are built on a highly resilient, secure, and available platform. We really have no single point of failure in the environment. Furthermore, we actually put our uptime guarantee in writing. It's in your contract. That it does have a financial stipulation tied to it, so you can really trust that we're going to make sure that you have continuous availability. So that's covered by our financial commitment to ensure that availability. Now, without reviewing the details, you'll see other attributes here. All these features really deliver you lower total cost. They improve your business agility. And in most cases, they get your services to market faster than any other provider. Now, that data center environment with all the attributes we discussed previously is really manifest in our solutions. And among those attributes are really important, as I mentioned just a moment ago, is the need to be highly available and resilient. And we ensure this through various means that I wanted to call out here. For instance, Artisan Infrastructure co-locates in only the most redundant, secure, and compliant data centers. We're geographically diversified by being in Austin, Las Vegas, Kansas City, and we're also in Frankfurt, Germany. We have numerous new locations planned for later this year and also into 2017. In our data centers, we have multiple carrier backbones, and you can even bring your own if you want. We have 2N redundant power, so that your workloads are always protected in case of a power failure. We have physical premise security, so that only authorized employees have physical access to our data center. We also conduct numerous audits, adhere to strict compliance standards, so that you can be confident that our solution has protected you in every way. And on that note, let's talk a little bit more about security and compliance programs. So security is at the heart of everything that we do. And I know you'll probably agree that when we talk about cloud computing, security is usually top of mind for you and your end users. And Artisan has built a robust and holistic security approach that's the basis for all of our platforms. It's not an afterthought. It's not a bolt-on in our environment. And one of the most important factors of our security approach is that it is a shared responsibility model, with Artisan managing and securing the delivery platform, and then our partners or end users providing those services for the application and data layers. We also have a full-time dedicated CISO. He defines our security strategy. He builds our security roadmap. He engages and interacts on our data center roadmaps to ensure that security is always at the heart of what we do, and he ensures that we stay compliant. We cover an extensive range of security capabilities. Many of these you can see right here, ranging from data security to infrastructure security and through to administrative controls within our organization. And these should give you a lot of confidence. Some of the examples that I point out are the ISO IEC 27001 compliance, if you're into security standards, our DDoS mitigation services so that you can feel protected by any DDoS attacks that may happen to your environment, HIPAA compliance. We do annual SOC compliance audits, and we ensure every one of our employees understands how to manage partner data. So we really do look at this holistically. We do everything we can to make sure that you are in the most trusted and secure environment possible. So now that we've looked at security, what about when disasters and outages occur? Executives simply can no longer turn a blind eye to the reality of what's going on worldwide, and the evidence suggests that the risk is much higher now than it's ever been before. Businesses are not always prepared. Even with capital investment, some have inadequate testing of their business continuity plan. Some have ignored the threat, thinking that it simply couldn't happen to them. Some say they like to do it, it's just too expensive, so they cut corners and simply aren't prepared. And the statistics say that, furthermore, 20% of businesses without a business continuity plan will probably not survive a catastrophic disaster recovery event due to lack of planning and investment. An example of this would be that of 9/11. Over 50% of the businesses in the World Trade Center, for example, they did not survive that event. No one could have imagined that a data center in the World Trade Center would be lost completely. And then when you think about climate-related disasters, those are increasing. They affect millions of people. And the use of effective protection technologies can help fill the gap when people are affected by disasters. I mean, think about a hurricane, for example, in Houston. People leave, yet their businesses cannot completely shut down. So technology and a well-structured business continuity program can help keep the business going with replication scenarios, and anytime, anywhere access to a second or even a third disaster recovery site. Regardless of the reason for the disaster or the problem, whether it's a hurricane or a failed virtual machine, downtime costs money, and you know that probably even better than I. To further emphasize the importance of having a resilient cloud, I just want to talk a bit about that cost. So on the left side, you can see the various causes of downtime, ranging from hardware failure all the way to natural disaster. Any or even all of these could potentially happen on any given day. I mean, that'd be a pretty rough day if they all happened, of course, but there's that possibility. But any one of these could be enough to take a business down at some level. And with the reputation risk that you would incur with potentially the loss of customers, all of this is real, and so are the dollars that this downtime would take away from the business. What's interesting is in a recent study, they found that the average cost per minute for downtime was $7,900 per minute. That means 1 hour of downtime on average costs nearly $500,000. So the question is, what is your disaster recovery strategy with numbers like that looming large in your mind? What mechanisms do you put in place to protect your company from downtime? Because we all know a cloud is only as good as its ability to keep you up. And what does that capability look like when disasters occur? We all know that hope really isn't a strategy. I put it here to tease that idea out, but we all know that hope's not a strategy. But there are some people in the industry who are still using that approach. We instead feel we have to go through all the phases of a comprehensive business continuity disaster recovery strategy to be successful, so that you can lay your head on your pillow every night and rest confident that your workloads and your data are going to be there when you need them. Now, so it all starts with a solid plan that includes assurance testing. And that assurance testing is critical so that you can actually test whether your BCDR solution is functioning properly. Now, many of you may have heard this number. There's this old number that's floated around for years, and it said that 70% of backups don't work. They couldn't even be recovered if they needed to. And I've never been able to find any attribution for that. I know some people have said Gartner said that, but Gartner has said, no, we didn't say that. But regardless, I feel like the premise may be right in some ways. And so, you know, I think about coming back to the reality of that. If you don't test your solution, how will you know it will work when you need it most? So that really is why assurance testing is so vitally important and something that we can deliver to our partners. You also have to think about what's going to be there or who's going to be there to help you develop and implement the right strategy. Will commodity cloud vendors be there to help you work through what matters the most for your specific business needs? Now, I'm not one to typically read something to you, but I really felt like Jason Buffington at ESG really captured the heart of what matters to a BCDR solution. So bear with me, I'll read this quickly. 5 years from now, data protection may not even be a standalone thing, or at least not built out of separate products or widgets. Instead, you'll define policies. The infrastructure will just do it, how often, how long we're at. You won't or shouldn't care about where the zeros and ones are stored, how they move between platforms, on what media they reside. As long as you can reliably get to what you need when you need it. What you will care about are the policies that define the SLA retention the efficiency. Now, if you're wondering about the language and the grammar here, this was actually a direct quote from one of his webinars. So he was actually speaking this versus writing it. But when we look at this quote and what he said here, this is exactly the approach that we take to BCDR solutions. And we're not waiting 5 years, though. So when he says 5 years from now, we're already doing it. And we know that our partners have told us they simply want an SLA for their data protection. So I want to talk briefly, very briefly, about the SLAs that we offer and the way that we view data protection, because it's a very simple discussion. So we have SLAs that are specific for each VM that you need protection for. And if you look at the top of this, you'll see the words VM-specific replication policy. That's because we can provide you a different policy for every VM. In this case, we begin with bronze. That delivers you a 4-hour RPO and 1-hour RTO locally. Then we move up to silver. That adds on remote replication, and that remote replication is done every 24 hours. The next step up is gold for those needing a higher level of protection. This adds remote recovery. So now you can spin up a VM at the remote site in the case of a failover or even a disaster. And then we move into our platinum SLA, providing RPOs that are mere seconds, and RTOs are nearly instantaneous. Now, I will point out that does depend a little bit on the network environment that you have, but with the right amount of bandwidth, that is possible. With this service, we can even extend your protection to a third site for maximum protection of your data. So to close this chapter on the BCDR SLAs, remember how we talked about having someone there with you all the way through the process? Well, that's a big part of what makes us different. Whether you know exactly what you want or you desire some assistance, we can absolutely accommodate you. While we offer a lot of services, I just want to close with this one, and that is moving workloads to, for example, an Artisan environment. For new customers or those wanting to move more workloads to our infrastructure, we offer a move as a service or a mass offering, and this is a white glove service. Our team, they utilize, I call it state-of-the-art software to migrate your servers with limited downtime, and it includes some of the things I've been talking about, like real-time replication and failover. As part of that process, you can test your Artisan servers before performing the final transition. You know, it's akin to that assurance testing, right, and a whole BCDR solution. You want to be able to make sure what you've transferred over is actually functioning properly. You can also test the network integrations. You can verify data. You can confirm functionality, all of that before the live cutover. And of course, this can all be done during any service window you choose. So we're not going to force a service window on you. You tell us when you want to do this type of service. It's just one of many, many services we provide to make your transition from any environment to an Artisan cloud. So at this point, I'd like to begin wrapping this up for us all, and I'd like to provide you kind of a complete view of what we can deliver to you at Artisan. So first, we are a channel-only cloud provider. That means we're not going to compete with you for your customers. We're going to support you 24/7, 365. Our experts become partners to you. They become an extension of your team. Our infrastructure has unlimited scalability. We talked about security. We are a compliance-driven organization on every level, and we can also offer you an easy on-ramp to our particular infrastructure using our move-as-a-service capabilities. So to fully wrap this up, it really is the fit that makes all the difference. It just leaves us with one question. Is Artisan the right cloud fit for you? We help companies large and small. We work with some of the world's largest companies, in fact, to solve real-world cloud problems every day. We design the right solution for them and feel we can do the same for you. So we hope you found the information we reviewed here helpful. We're going to send you a white paper called The 4 Misconceptions of Commodity Cloud Vendors, and also that document I mentioned earlier that has a comparison table between commodity cloud vendors and Artisan. You'll get that. If you want any other cloud white papers or any other content, please write us at marketingartisaninfrastructure.com. And if you'd like to schedule time with one of our cloud experts, you can write us at sales@artisaninfrastructure.com. And with that, I'll turn it over to the audience so that you can ask us any questions that you may have.
Hey Larry, great presentation. Really appreciate that. We actually had a couple of questions that already came in. I'm sure Christian Johnson's on the line as well. He's the VP of Technical Solutions, so I'll be glad to hear the responses from you and him. One of the first questions that came in is from Thomas. I like the concept of partnership, but my business requires high levels of redundancy and availability. You talk about a bit about those capabilities. Which tier of data center you offer? More specifically, do you offer tier 4 data centers?
Sure, thank you, Zach.
Yes, we do.
Thomas, and that's actually a great question. So everything that we do is based on hosting mission-critical workloads that require high availability. So all of our standard is based on tier 4 data center hosting. For those in the audience that are not as familiar, there is a Wikipedia that I can actually dig up here in a second, and I'll post into the chat box for your benefit. Just starting from the bottom, tier 1, just in general, I would deem more as a closet cloud. Not really many levels of redundancy. I would say, generally speaking, your typical public cloud data center today is going to be a tier 2, so you'll definitely want to inquire about that in your selection process. There is a tier 3. Tier 3, I jokingly will say, maybe shot for tier 4, but just didn't cut the muster. Tier 4 is an echelon of its own. Just to use a quick example, power is a good example to use. So in a typical traditional, tier 2 type facility, yes, there's some levels of redundancy. You might have an A feed and a B feed, but the reality is you do need to have maintenance ongoing on those gen sets, those power connectors, etc. So when they do take one leg down for maintenance, you can think about that. You'll be single strung on the standing leg. So what we do is, with a tier 4 fully redundant compliant TIA 942 design, is we actually have an A and a B pair and a C and a D pair, which are actually fed by dual substations from the powered municipalities. So this way, if they're taking any leg or pair offline, you still have resiliency on your standing pair. So the answer is yes, we only offer tier 4 facilities. I'll go ahead and dig up that Wikipedia and get it posted here in a moment.
Great, Christian. Thanks for the answer. And I can tell someone was reading our comparison chart. Sabra came in and said, could you elaborate on the difference between disaster recovery and application-aware continuity? And how was this beneficial?
Let's just take that to a little bit more of a generalized term. Disaster recovery, so essentially the words being combined, right, is a little bit separate in that endeavor, meaning first a disaster has to occur, and then you go into your recovery phase. Typically speaking, I would say that the SLA is really being written upon 2 components: your RPO, recovery point objective, so how frequently is it being replicated, i.e., if you did have to fail over, how much data could you potentially lose from the last replication point? And then the most important, or second important component there, is recovery time, RTO. So if you did need to fail over, what would be your typical expected failover time? Traditionally speaking, anywhere from 1 to 4 hours would be a little bit more of a standard, but anywhere from days, could be expected, really depending on your design, your plan, and what SLA you're asking or receiving. Business continuity is actually we've coined a term using our never fail engine, real-time replication, real-time failover, of continuous application availability. So doing the real-time replication component, your RPO is very near 0, less than seconds, and your RTO, your recovery time, is also literally seconds. So in that aspect, you can ensure that your application is always available in a mission-critical aspect to your users who demand access.
Thank you, Christian. I appreciate that elaboration. And we just had one that came in from Michael, and it's a 2-part question. He said, do you have a portal now for creating / managing VMs instead of using the vSphere interface via an RDP connection? And he also asked, do we connect to Autotask and ConnectWise now?
So absolutely, I'll address that. Let me just first say, on the prior question, I think that was a great question. I gave a fairly generalized answer. My role here is actually as a solutions architect, and would be more than happy to get on the phone with anybody on the audience or in general, within our partner base or a prospective partner, and help consult on DR needs. Generally speaking, there's different levels of applications. So you've got your tier 1 mission critical, and then you've got some less critical. But we'd be happy to help you fit the mold for any or in between of which those applications might require. I did find the Wikipedia here, so I'll go ahead and get that pasted in. And then to directly answer the next question, so yes, we do have a portal abstraction layer for multi-tenant, what we have called workspace as a service, allowing you to orchestrate terminal servers delivery through a single pane of glass or centralized management system. We do also want to answer the direct question related to integration to Autotask, ConnectWise, TigerPaw. We have our own billing and reporting system, so very granularly as a service provider, as a integrator, etc. You can actually log into our Abacus billing platform and look at your spend on a per customer by customer basis to help you isolate the spend per customer. We are working on some integration points to those PSAs. Again, the Autotask, TigerPaw, and ConnectWise is just not available to emphasize the today part of the question. We can get you on with a member of our billing operations team who can help you massage the data effectively and export it to a CSV that can be moved or migrated or integrated to those platforms. So I hope that helps answer that question.
Yeah, and Michael, I'll make sure we reach out to you directly to see if you have any extra questions. And then we have one more question that came in, and this is from Leonard, but I think you may have answered it, and maybe you want to elaborate on it. He said, how can you guarantee uptime? What if you're a data center struck by a hurricane? So I think you kind of answered that with the real-time replication in the tier 4 data centers, but if there's anything you'd like to elaborate on that, feel free, Christian.
Sure, and that's actually a really good question, one that I would pose, potentially as a subscriber to a hosted service. First off, the Tier 4 does say a lot. So within that TIA designation of Tier 4, it does have the wind ratings of the roof, the weight from a snow shed, etc. The good news is we selectively choose our data center facilities outside of any natural disaster area. But nonetheless, IT is IT, and we can help you write a guarantee or an SLA, leveraging, as Larry has presented, our silver, gold, platinum methodology, and whether it be from premises to artisan or artisan to artisan replication with DR. So again, it's really going to be specific, or rather, based on your customer needs or requirements, turned down to the SLA of how frequently do they want to replicate and how quickly do they want to recover. So if that's something that is a very valid concern to meet compliancy objectives or business use cases, we can help you with a desired outcome.
Yeah, Christian, I think on that point too, I think there's the idea of guarantee, right? So we have a financial contractual guarantee that is tied to a financial commitment if for whatever reason we were not able to adhere to the uptime that we committed to you.
Correct, and the levels of redundancy. So what I would ask is to reach out to one of our account managers. We'll get on and provide you with a demo. Everything within our facilities is built with a no single point of failure redundant design methodology, and we are using the industry leaders in the hardware virtualization space. So what you'll find through that demonstration is there's not a commodity play. In other words, we're using Arista, Brocade, HP Enterprise, NetApp, VMware Enterprise, etc. So definitely looking forward to getting that engagement and continuing to answer the great questions that are coming up.
Yeah, of course, Leonard. We'll also reach out to you too. And we have one last question that just came in. This is from Mick. It's on instant failover for disaster recovery. How are the IP addresses instantly allocated with the recovery site?
Sure. So using our Never Fail engine, we actually allow for a very granular design and configuration that will best suit the business outcome needs of your technology. But to answer that question, we are able to meet the near instant replication and recovery time with an active passive software. Say, as an example, you're protecting SQL, it will only be running on one of the nodes. However, Windows, the OS, is always on, so you can have either a stretched or extended VLAN for the same IP schema, or you can have a VPN as an example, so different layer 3 schema on both nodes. And then our Never Fail engine does a DNS injection to allow for the change of the FTDN, the domain name. I hope that helps answer the question, but again, happy to get on and consult about your individual needs.
Great, guys. Thanks for all these great questions. And Larry and Christian, thanks for answering them. It seems like we've reached the end of the questions. So I really appreciate what you guys have done today, and this was a great webinar. And I also want to thank all of our attendees for being here.